Hey there, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're diving into one of the darkest chapters in human history, the Gulag. Picture yourself in the heart of Russia during the early 1900s. The Russian Empire has just collapsed. And now you have the Bolsheviks taking charge under the leadership of Vladimir Lenin. This new government wants to set up a brand new country, the Soviet Union. But you know, running a country isn't easy. Trust me, especially if you're trying to do it for the first time. And Lenin found himself in a bit of a pickle. He needed a way to keep everyone in line, to make sure no one was causing trouble or thinking about breaking away. That's where the Gulag comes in. So here's how it started. Lenin decided to open up these special camps, which he liked to call prison and work camps. A much friendlier name than the one we remember them by today. Officially, they said these camps were for re-educating people who weren't playing nicely with the new socialist rules. But let's face it, we all know there was another secret reason why the Soviet leaders really wanted these camps: to use free labor. By 1930, there were around 100 camps scattered across the place, mostly holding people who had done something the Soviet government didn't like. So maybe you criticized the new government, or suggested that they treat people a little nicer or even worse. You got caught stealing food because you were starving. Yep. You heard me right. Stealing food. These days you might think, okay, big deal. I've seen people steal way more than that from Walmart. But back then, things were different. Back then, it was a crime against the state, like seriously challenging the government itself. And let me tell you, the government wasn't messing around. They slapped that anti-Soviet label on you. And poof, you were off to the Gulag. Now imagine you're in one of those camps. How do you get out? Well, first of all, you had to admit you were guilty of whatever they accused you of. But here's the catch. You couldn't just say sorry and expect them to let you go. No, sir. You had to swear to be a good little obedient citizen and promise to work hard to pay off your crimes. Second, you had to finish your sentence. And trust me, this wasn't a short vacation. We're talking sentences from 5 years to, I don't know, life. And here's the extra creepy part. You didn't even know what you were in for. They kept that secret till the very end. Fast forward a bit to 1934 and 1936, when Stalin was at the top of his game. He was running the Soviet Union like his own personal playground. Now, in his playbook, anyone who dared cross him or even question his decisions ended up in the Gulag. And let me tell you, that's a pretty long list of people. He tossed generals, philosophers, writers, scientists, even his own children. Anyone who made him feel threatened or uncomfortable. You can't make this stuff up. By 1937, the whole thing exploded into a massive dragnet operation. They were throwing people into the Gulag left and right. Whole groups of people, entire communities, disappeared overnight. Where did they go? Well, you guessed it, the Gulag. By the end of the 1930s, over 8 million folks had been thrown into these camps. And unfortunately, only a fraction of them made it out alive. The camps stretched across the Soviet Union, each one as brutal and unforgiving as the last. It was a huge network of misery. The hardest hit areas were mostly in northwest Russia, Siberia, and Central Asia. Most of the camps were tucked away in god-forsaken spots, miles away from towns or villages, so you're locked up in one of these camps, cut off from the outside world. How does it feel? Let me describe it to you. First off, let's talk about the weather. If you're sent to one of the northern camps, you're in for a real treat. Just imagine freezing cold temperatures, dipping down to 30 degrees Celsius. That's minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit for our American friends. Add to that bone-chilling winds that seem to suck all the warmth out of your bones. If you're unlucky enough to be working outside, you're in for a double dose of misery. You're not only shivering in the cold, but also struggling to do hard, dangerous work. The winter months are like a never-ending nightmare. Days are short and dark. It feels like the sun takes a permanent vacation. And when you're stuck inside the barracks, it's even worse. You're crammed in there with other prisoners, sleeping on dirty, uncomfortable beds, sometimes barely covered in threadbare blankets. Plus, the food situation is, well, let's just say it's not exactly a gourmet experience. Thin, watery soups and stale bread are the name of the game. And when you're working hard, doing exhausting labor, that's not gonna cut it. You need proper nourishment to keep your strength up. but you just don't get it. Hunger becomes your constant companion, gnawing at your stomach, making it harder and harder to keep going. And let's not forget about those pesky diseases that love to spread in crowded, unsanitary conditions. Coughs, fevers, and infections go around like wildfire. It's a constant struggle to stay healthy, but the odds are stacked against you. Life in the Gulag wasn't just tough. It was a test of endurance, a battle against the elements, and a constant struggle for survival. You know, when you hear the word prison, you might think of steel bars and locked cell doors. But in the Gulag, things were a little different. More often than not, your prison was a log cabin made of wood, usually shared with other prisoners. It wasn't exactly high-tech. Instead of comfy beds, you had a pile of hay or some old rags to sleep on. And forget about having your own bed. You were lucky if you managed to score a corner to curl up in. The rest of the cabin was filled with other prisoners, each with their own story, their own hopes and fears. You'd listen to their stories, swap your own experiences, and somehow find comfort in knowing that you weren't alone in this crazy, terrifying place. It was a weird sort of community, born out of necessity and forged in the fires of hardship. During the day, you were out working. The type of work varied, from chopping wood to digging canals. Sometimes you'd be clearing land for farming or building something for the government. Whatever it was hard, back-breaking labor. And when you returned to the cabin at night, exhausted and hungry, it felt like a lifetime away from freedom. In the Gulag, discipline wasn't suggested. It was enforced. The guards, armed with whips and guns, kept a hawk eye on everyone. One wrong move, one step out of line, and you faced their wrath. They were ruthless, quick to punish, and even quicker to draw their weapons. The threat of violence hung heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked around every corner. In the Gulag, food was a weapon. The guards could take it away whenever they wanted. If you made a mistake or simply didn't meet your daily quota, you went hungry. Hunger became a tool of control, keeping everyone weak and desperate, always on edge. You watched others waste away from lack of food, their bodies becoming shadows of their former selves. You knew that could be you next. It wasn't just about survival, it was about resisting the system. In the Gulag, hope was a dangerous thing. It kept you going, but it could also lead to trouble. The slightest glimmer of hope for a better future, a whisper of freedom, could be crushed by the guards. It was safer to live day to day, never looking up, never dreaming of escape. They tried to break you in the Gulag, both body and mind. Sleep deprivation was a favorite tactic. The guards kept you awake for days, forcing you to stand, walk, or do other menial tasks. They wanted you to confess, to give up information, or to just break down. Some cracked under the pressure, spilling secrets or betraying others, but many held on, clinging to their sanity as the world around them crumbled. But remember, there were kids in the Gulag too, as young as 10 or 12. The Soviets didn't care about age or innocence. If your parents were taken away, chances are you followed them to the Gulag. Your childhood was stolen, replaced by hard labor, hunger, and fear. You might have carved tiny boats out of scraps of wood, pretending they were carrying you away from the camps. Or you might have composed songs about freedom, singing them softly in the dead of night. The end of the Gulag era began with Stalin's death in 1953. Slowly, very slowly, things started to change. New leaders took charge and started to undo some of the damage that had been done. Some of the camps were closed, some prisoners were freed, but the scars left by the Gulag remained. It's important to remember that the Gulag system wasn't just a terrible part of history. It's a lesson for the present and a warning for the future. The Gulag teaches us that no matter how powerful a government is, it shouldn't mess with people's lives, rights, or security. It reminds us that every person matters, that their voice should be heard and their dignity respected. Now, it's your turn to add your voice to this conversation. Did you find this video interesting or educational? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, if you're still hungry for more knowledge, check out these videos right here. Thanks for tuning in. See you in the next one.